Welcome back to True Cyber Crimes, the show where we dig into the hacks, heists, and digital disasters that shape the cyber world. I'm Chris.
I'm Nick. Today's story takes us across decades from the very first internet worm in 1988, which we've spoken about previously, to a modern worm with a name that came straight out of science fiction, the Shai Hulud.
If you're a Dune fan, you'll recognize the name Shai Hulud. It's a massive sandworm that rules the desert planet Arrakis. Fitting, because this worm burrowed through the modern digital desert, the NPM ecosystem.
So grab your still suits and spice. These are Dune reference. Because we're going to be comparing the worm that almost broke the early internet with the worm that reminds us decades later that some lessons never end up getting learned.
And are we going to get a special appearance by Sting too on this? Since if people remember the original Dune, but I'm hoping. I'm really hoping he comes on. So before we dig into Shai Hulud, let's rewind to 1988. The internet was small, 60,000 machines, mostly universities and labs, and then came the Morris worm, if you recall.
Robert Tappan Morris, in fact, a curious grad student, unleashed a program, spread faster than he expected. Within a day, 10% of the internet was crashed.
The Morris worm spread through three tricks: exploiting email software, exploiting a service called Finger, and guessing weak passwords.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be destructive. It was something he was curious about. But the worm itself didn't know when to stop. The machines, as a result, kept reinfecting themselves until they slowed down to a crawl with all the duplicated processes.
And it was complete chaos. The FBI got involved, and Morris became the first person convicted under the new Computer Fraud and Abuse Act.
Yeah, so that's our baseline. Curiosity, weak defenses, and a global network that wasn't ready for abuse. So now we fast forward 3 days. It's no club for researchers. It's the backbone of our global business, and software is built differently now. I guess we'll see how differently, but
yeah. So enter NPM, short for Node Package Manager. It's the most widely used repository for JavaScript packages. Developers all over the world use NPM to share and download bits of code.
Yeah, so think of NPM, and this is an analogy that works well for me. I'm a big Lego fan my whole life. But you think of NPM like Lego blocks. Instead of building every piece of your program from scratch, developers are grabbing these pre-made blocks or packages from NPM, and then they snap them together to create their application. It's a lot more efficient, but if one of those blocks is poisoned, everything built with it is at risk. So here's the scale difference. While spread across 60,000 machines, NPM serves over 11 million developers and is used in billions, literal billions of package downloads every week. One worm in this ecosystem can ripple across the globe in hours.
The Shai Hulud worm first surfaced around 2020. Spreading through NPM packages, it used dependency confusion, basically tricking developer tools into downloading a malicious package instead of the safe package.
Yeah, so big difference we're seeing already. Morris was curiosity. This has malicious intent, right? Injecting these NPM packages with spreadable worms. And it did. It spread like wildfire because these projects often nested dependencies. These packages that depend on other packages, which depend on more packages. It's it's like nesting dolls all the way down, and you've got code injection upon code injection upon code injection as a result.
And let's talk a little bit about that dependency confusion. It works like this. Imagine ordering your favorite brand of cereal, Frosted Flakes would be mine. But instead of coming from the trusted factory, a fake version shows up with poison inside. Your grocery store didn't check carefully enough. I mean, they're not going to look inside the box. And now everyone's breakfast cereal is ruined. So the worm was clever. Once installed, it tried to spread itself further, exfiltrating environment variables, things like API keys, tokens, and credentials.
Yeah, definitely malicious in this case. And suddenly the worm wasn't just annoying, it was stealing these crown jewels of our, modern development environments, the secrets that ultimately control apps and cloud infrastructure that we and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are all using, on a daily basis.
So let's look at these two worms and how they compare. Let's break it down. From a scale perspective, Morris infected 6,000 machines. Shai Hulud targeted an ecosystem serving millions of developers and companies worldwide. So the target, Morris hit universities and research labs. That was the internet then. Shai Hulud hit open source supply chains, and that's really the foundation of modern software. So the method, Morris exploited weak passwords and bugs. Shai Hulud exploited trust our assumptions that open source packages are safe. That's a dangerous assumption.
Yeah.
And then the impact, Morris caused downtime productivity loss. Shai Hulud threatened to leak sensitive credentials and compromise cloud systems.
And to be fair, this attack vector isn't new. It was, I don't remember the year now, but it was at least 10, probably about 10 years ago ish, maybe more, that Equifax, the credit agency,
I got that
was
letter.
taken down in a similar way. They were using a piece of the Apache web server that had malicious code in it. So very similar situation, not just in the last 4 or 5 years. But the parallels are striking. Both of these worms, Morris and Shai Hulud, spread faster than anybody expected them to. Both revealed that there were massive blind spots in security still, and both forced the community to rethink how we defend ourselves.
Yeah, and I guess the good news is since 1988, we've built stronger defenses. We've got firewalls, intrusion detection, endpoint protection. If the Morris worm were to be released today, it probably wouldn't get very far.
I'd maybe challenge that. That we have the tools. It's like the younger audience isn't probably going to get this, but there's a Seinfeld episode where he says, "You know how to take the car rental reservation. You don't know how to hold the car rental reservation when they don't have a car." It's the same thing. We have all the tools. We know how to make the tools. We aren't seeing all the businesses that are willing to or employing all the tools. So
yeah, until breach happens.
Yeah. So the bad news is our complexity as a result has exploded. With NPM, we've built software like a giant Jenga tower. We're no longer talking Legos now. We're talking Jenga, which is a lot more, perilous. Thousands of these packages stacked on top of each other. One bad block and the whole thing comes toppling down. A study in 2022 found that 95% of all the vulnerabilities in modern applications come from third-party components, the packages we trust but don't ultimately control.
The unchanged part, human behavior, weak passwords in 1988, insecure coding practices today. Developers still trade convenience for security. Companies still wait until after a breach to invest in defenses. It's no different.
No, it's no different. It's the exact same story. It's a different decade, different worm.
The lesson from Morris was the internet needs guardrails. The lessons from Shai Hulud is supply chains need guardrails.
100%. And today that means vetting our dependencies better, our supply chain, using package signing and verification, and limiting how secrets are stored in development environments. And we talk about the benefit of community, right? There's the adage: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, when you go together and you create this big community, it becomes much more difficult to police all the little bits that the community brings together, and that's kind of the challenge that we see here.
Sure.
Sure.
And the bigger picture, we've gone from individual machines being vulnerabilities to entire ecosystems being vulnerabilities. That's both progress and it's danger. In cybersecurity, we say attackers only need to be right once, defenders need to be right every time. The Morris worm proved it in 1988. Shai Hulud proved it again in 2020.
So what's the legacy at the end of all this? Morris was the wake-up call for, an internet that was essentially a newborn. Shai Hulud was the wake-up call for the modern software supply chain.
And both worms taught us that the weakest link is never where we expect it. In 1988, it was weak passwords. In 2020, it was weak package trust.
Yeah, both remind us that the line between curiosity and catastrophe is thin. Morris didn't mean to crash the internet. Shai Hulud's creators may have been testing, but the collateral damage was massive.
Yeah, and in other words, history doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme.
That's all for today's episode of True Cybercrimes. From the Morris worm to Shai Hulud, the story is the same. One worm, one weak link, and the world takes notice, or should.
Yeah. That's the piece. I'm not sure they always do take notice, or we wouldn't have a podcast. But hey, everybody, if you enjoyed this cross-generational dive into cyber worms, subscribe and leave us a review. It helps people find the show.
Absolutely. And remember, whether it's 1988 or 2025, the internet is only as strong as its weakest link.
Until next time, this is Chris and Nick signing off. Thanks, Nick. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks.